Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I have Ashley with me again. Hey Ashley, how's it going?
Hey.
So Ashley's always game for interesting conversations, and frankly, we send things back and forth. We have a really great relationship where we can like send each other things, and it inspires videos like this. So this was like a month ago. Ashley, you sent me a screenshot, and I felt like I was in the Twilight Zone. And I was like, "Is this real? Is this a joke?" And you're like, "No, this is real." So how about we set the stage? What was going on that you're like, I'm going to send this to you and start this conversation? What was the screenshot about in like broad terms?
So there was a conversation on social media about paying for supervision, and someone posted about um, we shouldn't have to pay for supervision. Why are we even offering supervision for cost? And it sparked this interesting and I thought pretty respectful dialogue back and forth between a multitude of providers. But I think it's interesting because I've never thought of supervision as free. I
Right.
would say I got free supervision in my first 2 or 3 years after graduate school because I worked at an agency where my supervisor was an LCSW, he was a CAC 3, he was sex offender management board certified. And I consider myself very lucky to have basically triple supervision in the context of an agency.
Mm,
And at least in social work, we're seeing more and more that there are not licensed clinical social workers available for supervision in agency settings, even at internship sites. And so I'm curious, like, how are we filling this gap? This is a huge need, supervision is, but also recognizing our value. You know, you and I are about 10, 15 years into our career, and we can't work for free. And so while I want to reduce barriers and I understand that supervision out of pocket can be very, very expensive. I mean, we're talking thousands of dollars over 2 or 3 years. But we also deserve to be paid for our expertise. So
hmm
that was long-winded, but I was really excited to set the stage about this.
Yeah, I mean, this is what I love about our collaboration because, like, you speak to the social work side, I speak to the licensed
Mhm.
professional counselor side here in Colorado. And when you sent that screenshot, like you kind of said yourself, I've never expected supervision for free. Like it was normalized, like you either pay for supervision if you're pulling someone from the outside, or you're going to
Mhm.
go into community mental health, which was kind of the path most of us were expected to take right out of graduate
Mhm.
school back in the
Right.
day. I know now more people are going right into private practice.
Mhm.
And so I feel like it's our job, and we created a course on this, but like we've talked about, supervision is something you invest in as one of your business
Mhm.
expenses if you're going into
Right.
private practice early, like if you're going right after graduate school or pre-licensed, your candidate, like all of those dynamics.
Mhm.
And so when you sent that screenshot, I was just like, what is this? Like, I've never thought that it would be free. It was always wrapped in of like, you put in your time, like kind of those interesting hustle messages of like, you put in your
Mhm.
time and you get supervision as part of that time
Right.
and you're
Mhm.
saving yourself money. And so we're going to do another video on the costs of doing business in therapy here shortly. But like in this video, it's just like, huh, how interesting that came up. I appreciate that you said the dialogue was respectful because I feel like some people could have just like ripped this person apart when they said,
Mhm.
"This is what my belief is that supervision should be free,"
Right.
which to me is just wild. Like that's never been a thing on the
Mhm.
licensed professional counselor side, as far as I know.
I got my ACS credential. I was the only social worker in all three of my classes. And so to hear LPCs talk about charging for supervision was different for me because I had come from agency setting where it was offered, right, as part of a benefit, I will say. It was not free.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I was sticker shocked by what they were charging as we went through like mock disclosure statements and practicing conversations in triads and role playing about finances and cost. And I would say I'm on the lower end of supervision, you know, hourly rates, and I do provide sliding scale when I can. And I have one pro bono supervisee right now. And I think systemically, we should be doing a better job finding other funds than the therapist having to pay out of pocket for supervision. You know, grants or state funds or agency funds. Um, And some universities are even paying for social workers to supervise now because internship sites do not have an LCSW on site. And so universities are even recognizing, we can't do this for free. And they're trying to figure
Mhm.
out ways to bring in more supervisors for their hundreds of students.
Yeah. So like there's like this slow but meaningful shift happening of like, let's make sure we compensate
Mhm.
the supervisor. Because even though this has happened in lots of videos before this one, I'm going to reiterate it again, which is this is our license on the line. Like that's part of
Mhm. It
supervision. It's a
is. It is.
wonderful leadership relationship. You and I love supervising, and it comes with risks. Is this
Mhm.
person going to do what we've asked them to do? If we've
Right.
directed them to do a suicide assessment, a mandated report, and they don't follow through, all these other things that have complexity happen. And so it's not just, hey, I'm greedily taking my hundred whatever dollars for supervision. It's there's a compensation of I am vetting you. I'm making sure that
Right.
you are ready to go into the field on your
Mhm.
own as a licensed professional. I think that's true for social work and
Yep.
professional
Mhm.
counselors, right?
Yep. Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think for us, we just wanted to like normalize, like, hey, most of us are expected to pay for supervision or choose a job that has it built in. This is why some employees are building their group practices this way of saying, hey, supervision 1 hour a week is part of your commitment as an employee. Can't do that with contractors. That's a different video. So
Yep.
check that one out later. But this is why I think some people still are going into community mental health. Now, Ashley and I have been known to champion going into community mental health for a different reason. There's still high burnout rates and all the things that are risks, but there's also a lot of learning opportunities when you go into agency work.
Right.
Part of it is getting that supervision, quote unquote, built in or for free. But also, it's like, wow, I get a lot of experience working with diverse clientele. Maybe I have more experience doing mandated reports or suicide assessments or any and all things that might be part of your job going forward. So
Right.
there's lots of benefits for community mental health. When I had a group practice, those were the people I hired. I wanted people who
Mhm.
came from community mental health because I was like, I know you can handle a lot of things.
Yes.
So different videos all in this channel that we're referencing right now, but just wanted to like get a sense from this community. Does it surprise you that there are people saying, hey, I thought supervision was going to be free? Where is that being reinforced? Is that coming from graduate school? Is that coming from a certain social media group? Is that coming from colleagues? I think that I encourage anyone who's watching this video to comment. Let us know, where is this coming from? If you had an idea or a thought, because this just blows my mind that people were like, yes, I expected this to be free.
And
Wild.
I do want to point out one other scenario that I've seen somewhat regularly where people do have on-site supervision, but either it's not frequently enough or their supervisor does not specialize in what the supervisee is either interested in or trained in, and they're seeking additional supervision outside of what's already provided. So I think that's also something that we should throw out there too, is even if you do have supervision at an agency setting, what if it's not enough? Then what do you do? How do you make sure that you're getting your learning needs met? How do you make sure that you're becoming competent and confident and growing into an expert in the area that you want to? Because that's not necessarily going to be the case with an assigned supervisor at a job either.
Right, right. Yeah, it kind of ties into some of our concerns of leadership trauma and what's the education of the person supervising.
Mhm.
But even more so, I think a lot of people are moving into specialties. So now I need a
Yeah,
specific supervisor for that
right.
specialty, as you kind of just
Mhm.
named. And so to assume that that person would be free, I mean, I don't think anyone is saying that, but like, let's just play that through. If like someone's like,
Mhm.
okay, I have my agency supervisor or my primary supervisor, and I'm going to go find a secondary supervisor to fill some of the gaps or go towards a specialty. Can you imagine looking at them and being like, hey, you specialize in this. I expect this to be free. Like
Mhm.
that would never happen.
Yeah.
So
It would.
it's wild. So yeah, no real agenda other than just wanting to like have a discussion of like, hey, this just came up. It was end of 2024, I think, that we saw that discussion happening. And we're just like, wow, this is 2024, now 2025 as the time
Mhm.
of we're
Yeah.
recording. But like this is still something that's going on in 2024 slash 2025 that people have expectations about the cost of supervision. So one of the things I'll put below this video, if you've hung in there with us through this whole thing so far, I did write a blog back in the day. I think it's like 3 or 4 years old, where I was like, here are 10 things to consider when setting your supervision rate. And
Oh,
I'm going to
okay.
put that blog in here and see if that's helpful to anyone watching, whether you're a social worker, a licensed counselor, a the PsyD, whatever
MSP.
background you've got going on. Maybe this would help kind of anchor in, here are all the factors to consider when setting your rate. And we'll just normalize it with that blog and see if you like it. So again, comment, let us know what you're thinking about free supervision versus paid for supervision, primary versus secondary, social work versus licensed professional counselor. I mean, we've got so many different things going on there. Last thoughts from you, Ashley, on this topic.
I think we hit a lot.
Yeah. So let's see what our community has to say about it. And again, we'll put some resources below, a couple other videos here in the channel, but that blog more specifically of 10 tips to consider or 10 things to consider when thinking about your supervision rate. Hope that helps. We'll see you in a future video. See you then.